Fucking ridiculous. But don't worry, because in Australia, we have a load of idiots to tell you stupid shit about all kinds of things. And I'm not just talking about this podcast.
Oh, hey, oh, there he is.
Hey, zip, zap. Got him.
I like the implication.
I was watching some Rodney Dangerfield clips
Implication?
today. That is good stuff.
I don't know if that was implied. I think that was pretty explicit.
So the Sydney Morning Herald posted what I think can only be described as a reckless and irresponsible article today, or opinion piece, anyway. Titled, "I have coronavirus and I'll be fine. Please stop the hysteria." By young white guy. Now, there's a lot of problems with this. Let's just dip into it, and we'll see how much we hate this guy before we even get to the meat of it. A brief trip to Hong Kong to visit a dear friend seemed like a good idea at the time. We all love taking a brief trip to Hong Kong, don't we?
Just a sojourn.
My fucking brother has lived in Hong Kong for like 2 or 3 years now, and I have never been there.
I love just a weekend in Hong Kong, you know?
Oh, just a little hop across the pond.
We've got a little weekender, on the coast in Hong Kong.
So, second sentence, and I already want to push this guy down some stairs.
Please, it's
2
already been
weeks
through
later,
enough. He had coronavirus.
2 weeks later, when my head began to throb, I thought I must be suffering from that common millennial affliction of caffeine withdrawal.
Okay, so I've got a theory that this column got green-lit on the basis of that one sentence.
They're like,
They
fucking
fucking-
millennials. Yeah.
It feels like the Sydney Morning Herald and The Age have like a quota of like just some dumb shit about millennials mentioned somewhere in the article. That's the only way they get traffic. Baffling.
Pretty much. Millennials can't afford coronavirus tests because they spent all their money on avocado toast. You know?
Got him.
They do be doing that, though.
But after 3 days of paracetamol and plenty of coffee, so it wasn't that, the pain ramped up to an unbearable level. I presented at St. Vincent's Hospital Emergency Department in Sydney at 8 a.m. last Sunday, convinced I had a brain tumour on the precipice of exploding. I underwent brain scans, blood tests, and a precautionary nose swab. About 12 hours later, I was told by a friendly...
All right.
told by a friendly doctor, covered from head to toe in an armor of protective clothing, that I had coronavirus. Frankly, the diagnosis was a relief from the alternative.
Fine, who cares?
It was a relief from my unfounded belief that I had, like, Scanner's brain exploding disease. By this point, my symptoms had subsided. While I'm very aware COVID-19 can be lethal for the elderly and anyone with a compromised immune system or respiratory difficulties, the experience of a young, relatively fit patient seems out of proportion to the panic and fear I've encountered since my diagnosis.
So fuck those other people.
Yeah, so whatever. It's almost like it's not actually about you, specifically.
I also feel like it's extremely well understood at this point that it affects the elderly and the immunosuppressed.
But no, that's not what this guy's worried about. The response from friends, colleagues, and acquaintances was extreme. Entire businesses in Melbourne and Sydney were shut down immediately, their staff sent home because they'd had contact with me. Friends of friends who'd seen me before I even went to Hong Kong were isolating themselves and pulling their kids out of school. Acquaintances who I hadn't been in contact with in weeks were on the phone. Before bothering with pleasantries, they demanded to know, what does this mean for my grandma? She's 96.
Boo-hoo, my grandma might die.
What a fucking prick.
Yeah. Also, what if this was a diary of the guy that brought coronavirus to Australia? What if this cunt was patient zero?
Well, the thing is, he's talking about like all of these people being fucking hysterical panic merchants and everything. Mm-hmm. But if we reread this, businesses in Melbourne and Sydney were shut down, their staff sent home because they had had contact with me. a carrier of the coronavirus.
A carrier, a confirmed carrier.
I told
Friends
people
of
that I had
friends.
coronavirus and they started getting real weird.
Yeah, everyone whose mouth I'd spat directly in suddenly was calling me, wanting to know what this meant for all of their dying relatives.
Friends of friends who had seen me were isolating themselves and pulling their kids out of school. Acquaintances I hadn't been in contact with in weeks were on the phone. So it's almost like all of these other people around you are doing what they're supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
Which is saying, I have had contact with a confirmed coronavirus carrier. I will now self-isolate myself and people that I have had contact with.
Meanwhile, this motherfucker's pulling up a chair in front of his typewriter, typing out this entire screed, and then getting a big envelope, stashing the paper into the envelope, and then licking the envelope from side to side, sealing it, and then sending that like a bucket full of anthrax to the Sydney Morning Herald.
I hope somebody at the Sydney Morning Herald who ran this caught coronavirus as a result.
Satire, jokes.
Parody.
Easier.
I don't really. Because they would probably give it to some 96-year-old grandma. Their concerns, of course, were a natural human reaction to risk. Were they?
Also, the medical advice that they're being given
They're
by
literally...
public health officials.
Yes, literally the public health advice on slowing the spread, the explosive spread of a disease that is killing, like, at this point, about 4% of people who get it. 4% is like a pretty reasonable number.
Yeah. And like, so the weird thing that I've heard a lot of people say is like, oh, but that doesn't mean you've got 4%. And I mean, I've probably taken this stance initially as well, right? That doesn't mean that you've got a 4% chance to die. I mean, that's true, but also the other side of that means that if you're the person that's susceptible to this, you've got a fucking way bigger chance than 4% of dying, right?
Yeah.
Like, so if like, you know, I was just talking to my grandma, and the first thing when I picked up the phone was like, oh, I hope she doesn't have coronavirus because she would almost certainly die.
Jesus
and I love my
Christ.
grandmother.
Oh, buddy.
Whereas I don't love this guy, you know?
No, this guy sucks. He's not my grandmother.
Hmm.
As far as I know.
Family members who have often wanted to strangle me over the years at least inquired after my health and welfare before suggesting this was somehow my fault, that I should have been more careful.
Yeah, I agree with them there.
Those now quarantined 24/7 with toddlers were understandably grumpy and partial to the notion that I had thrown their lives into chaos through thoughtless misadventure. I explained that Hong Kong is not and never was on the recommended self-isolation list. Again, though, is it about Hong Kong specifically being on the list, or is it about being like, hey, there is a pandemic spreading around the world, I'd better go through some airports?
The impression that I get from this guy, like so many of these other articles, is that nobody liked him before this.
Hong Kong was never in the same category as mainland China, Italy, and Iran. In fact, my doctors advised me that given the timing of my symptoms, it was highly likely I picked up this virus locally. Now, I'm pulling the needle off the record here to say, he says, my doctors advised, given the timing of my symptoms, it was highly likely I picked up this virus locally. So no one should yell at me about having gone to Hong Kong, right? So let's rewind it 2 paragraphs, 3
I
paragraphs.
got the white version of coronavirus.
Let's rewind it 3 paragraphs to friends of friends who had seen me before I even went to Hong Kong were isolating themselves. So a few paragraphs back, he's mad at people who have had contact with him before he went to Hong Kong because he's like, hey, I hadn't even gone to Hong Kong yet. And then a few paragraphs later, he's mad at people who think he got it from going to Hong Kong because he reckons he got it locally.
Well, I think what he's saying is that he got it after he went to Hong Kong.
Maybe.
So really, they're the big dummies for
They're the
taking
big
precautions.
idiots.
Not him. He's a go-getter, a jet setter. He fucks.
My first day as an official COVID-19 case was spent on the phone. I called every individual I'd been in contact with since my date of contagion. Oh, big inconvenience. Details of flight I had were provided to the Victoria and New South Wales health departments. What a big fucking deal. What a hullabaloo they're making about this. The news spread through my social and corporate network like a parallel viral contamination. Oh, wow. It went viral, you know? Like the Harlem Shake. I went from patient to pariah. Even those who had stocked up on toilet paper were beside themselves catastrophizing about the potential impact this could have on their lives. Gee, why would the people who, like, had fucking nervous breakdowns over toilet paper and were having fights with people in supermarkets, why would they be the people catastrophizing about having been in contact with you?
I think
Confirmed coronavirus carrier.
his little joke there is that they should be fine because they've done the thing in their mind that they needed to do, which is get shitloads of toilet paper. When actually it's just because he's a big fucking idiot. Oh, by the way, just Google the words if you haven't already. I have coronavirus and I'll be fine. Get the article up and just look at this guy's face the entire time while we're working through this.
Unless you're driving the car. Please don't do that.
Oh my god, I just read the last thing in this article.
Sit on that stew for a while.
Okay. All right.
Okay. The Melbourne doctor who treated 71 patients at his practice last week before discovering he was a carrier felt similarly irked by claims he'd somehow been irresponsible or negligent, even though he had followed prescribed procedures. That fucking dude had like flu symptoms while he was traveling back to Australia.
Oh, I just thought I had the flu though, not some other thing.
It was just regular influenza I thought I had as I treated 71 patients over the course of a week before finally admitting something might be wrong with me. That Melbourne doctor? Missy Higgins' dad.
Papa Higgins.
The aftershock of being held accountable for spreading illness through the community has been worse than the virus I'm fortunate to be recovering from. Once again, it's just about him. It's not about the countless fucking vulnerable people he might have spread this to. I empathize with those millions of Australians who are suffering the economic cost and health concerns created by COVID-19.
You wouldn't flip the order of those concerns.
No.
Fuck me.
But from this personal experience, the one where you didn't die, I guess, I feel it's time to calm down and as a nation show some resilience and common sense for which we are known. You know, that common sense Australia's known for.
Yep.
Just had several weeks of seeing fucking women wrestle in supermarket aisles over toilet paper. All that common sense, baby. It's time to focus on the 3% of people infected who are at serious risk. We were trying to do that before you wrote the article. We should understand that 97% of people infected will have symptoms ranging from a bad cold to flu and will recover. My headache was unusual, but beyond that, the symptoms were a mild sore throat and lethargy.
Yeah, we know. No one cares. No one gives a shit about... everyone knows that it's not, the virus that makes all your flesh fall off and die. We know. We know this already.
Signs off here with Tom
I haven't talked to a single person who's afraid of getting coronavirus. Every single person I've talked to is afraid of giving it to their family or whatever, right? Like, no, fuck. Go on. Finish it up.
Signing off with Tom Highwood is a property technology entrepreneur.
What the fuck does that mean?
I think it means that he's done work for Domain, which would make sense because, get this, his dad is the, up until recently, still is the former CEO of Fairfax, Greg Highwood.
Oh my God.
He stopped being the CEO when they merged with Nine.
Ben, come on.
Yep. I wonder
Ben.
how he got this published.
Come on.
I wonder how.
Come on.
Mm-hmm.
You want
Does that also mean that he doesn't entrepreneur technology if it's not property related?
I assume that's
like
it.
his domain knowledge is so deep.
Domain knowledge, yes.
Possibly. Oh, fuck.
I could just imagine Greg Highwood calling up You want access to the coronavirus, dipshit? You got to go through me.
All right.
I've got a
I
scoop.
just lost a bit of soup there.
Oh, God.
Get my
Why would you
fucking
run
idiot
this?
son on the line for you.
I mean, I know why I'd run this, because the only way the papers can get traffic on their shitty fucking websites is through the opinion section, because that's all that people read, and only if it is some sort of contrarian, useless take that is annoying.
Yep.
So don't give them the clicks, because we've just read it out to you. Fuck this guy.
Engaging with it studiously.
And at one stage, directly calling for people to visit the
That's
article.
true. That's true.
God, we're so
Uh-oh.
stupid.
Wow. Hey, look, I didn't do that. That's on you. Don't spread the blame out around the three of us.
It's true.
Oh, sorry, I just heard the sound of something falling over and Louie running.
Oh,
What you doing, buddy?
it's probably fine.
Oh, please don't knock over my wine glass.
Bad dog. Bad dog. Kick him. Kick the
He
dog.
doesn't know.
Louie, what are you doing? Sorry, hang on.
He's just got
What the fuck
paws
am I
the
doing?
size of a house.
Oh, that dog's going to be so big.
That dog's gonna be fucking huge, but that's gonna be a big dog.
Like,
But
everything's
don't worry.
resolved. He is incredibly wet. What have you been doing?
The mystery of dog.
Yeah, don't worry, Ben, because the bigger dogs get, traditionally, the less wine glasses they knock over.
Yep, it's going to be fine when he's twice this size.
Yeah.
Huh.
My personal Marmaduke.